people. Welcome to the Stitch People podcast. I'm Lizzie Bean, your host and the founder of Stitch People, where our goal with cross-stitching is to inspire your personal creativity, and our goal with podcasting is to help you make some new friends while you're at it. Let's go ahead and get into today's episode with Emily Miller. She has just a wow of a story about kind of how she found Stitch People and how she is getting her craft on again and how it's contributing to her healing journey after dealing with some really, really serious and very life-threatening health issues back sort of right at the start of COVID time. Heads up, it's a pretty deep story. It's a little bit heavy, but I think you'll all really appreciate the way that Emily approaches things. She is a silver linings person like me and finds a lot of the light where she can, even in dark places. And that's something that I really appreciate about her and the hope that she brings to her story and to her family and to the world around her. So let's get into hearing Emily's story and getting to know her a little bit. Hello, Emily.
Hello, Lizzie.
How are you today?
I'm wonderful.
Good.
In fact, I got super fancy today. I got my makeup done.
I noticed. You look very glam. I love it.
I think this is not normal. My friend Jordan did it. I called her.
That's so nice.
She's a makeup artist. And I was like, Jordan, I think I need my makeup done today. And she goes, okay. So she came
I love that. I love that. Well, it's nice to feel glam.
Yes.
Nice to zhuzh it up every once in a while. I go through phases, I'll be honest. And then especially when COVID hit, I just didn't want to. I didn't care. I mean, I'm sure because we weren't all going out as much, right? But it also just, there was something about the full stop, that I just was like, you know what? But I have to admit, it helped me reprioritize on that a little bit. I'm not as fussy about it. I used to be that kind of person who would not leave the house without mascara on. And now I'm like, yeah, I don't care, So it helped me, adjust my expectations. So
I was the opposite during COVID. I was an essential worker and I was an apartment manager. And I was constantly busy. So, I was going out and there was no one on the road.
Oh my gosh.
And I live in Kansas. And so we were the first state. Our governor said, school's closed. They're not going back to school.
Right.
And I rented, oh my gosh, I don't know how many apartments because everybody's at home going, I need more space or I don't like this.
Right.
And so I rented so many apartments.
Wow.
And then at the end of April, I got sick and I was in the hospital for the whole month of May. And so then it was like, I don't care.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And then after that,
priorities.
right. Living and all that stuff. Who knows? But yeah. And so now that I'm starting to get amongst the living again, I'm finding myself, okay, part of my schedule is putting makeup on. And if that means I put it on at 5:00 in the evening for, 4 hours.
Yep.
Hey. So,
I love that. It's all about self-care, whatever that means to you. So I love that. Okay. So I loved your little story just there. We covered a few things. You're from Kansas. Is that where you're born and raised?
Yeah. Well, I was born in Wichita and, I live in Topeka.
Great.
Which is the capital of Kansas. It is a very big, small town. Everybody knows everybody and it's all like 160,000 people.
Oh, wow.
People make fun of Kansas because everybody hates driving through Kansas. I will tell you, there is nothing like a sunset here. It's beautiful. And there's actually a really cool thing that happens. Tickets go on sale in March. And I think it's in August, the Kansas City Orchestra. It's called, my mom will kill me. Something on the Prairie.
Okay.
Something on the Prairie. The Kansas City Orchestra comes out. The Flint Hills actually goes, I think it's from North Dakota all the way down to Kansas and to Oklahoma, and I think even Texas. And it's just these hills that just kind of Yeah, anyway, hills.
Yeah.
But they put this big orchestra together, and you get these tickets. It's like $100, I think, a person. And you go sit out in the hills, and the orchestra, I don't think they have a sound system because it's so flat. Well, I mean, hilly, but there's no trees.
Sure.
And they play music, I think, for like 3 hours.
Wow.
And my parents went, and they said it's amazing. And tickets sell out in minutes. Yeah. Anyway, but no, I live on, or speak as the eastern part, so it's a little bit more exciting. It's like an hour away from Kansas City, but
great.
Yeah, I lived here. I lived in Arkansas for 6 years, six and a half years, and a little tiny town called, I feel like I need to say it because it probably is not said much, Pocahontas, Arkansas. So forgive my Pocahontas. Yes, it's in Northeast Arkansas. It was a sweet little town. Springfield is by Little Rock. Memphis is like 2 hours away. Nashville's about 4 hours. So it was a really great place to be around.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it's kind of right in the middle of everything.
Yeah, it was.
Just within a stone's throw.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I moved back home about, that'll be 2 years ago this month. And so it was.
Was that right before COVID, just happenstance, or because of?
It was. It was like, when you look how things happened. It was a relationship ended abruptly, and I believe that God ordains our footsteps, and so a relationship ended. Because of that, I was able to be home when COVID hit. And my dad at the time, we knew he had a blood cancer. And so my dad had cancer, but he was able to help me with my house, get my house all set up before COVID hit. Oof. And then I got sick less than 6 months after I got here. Ugh. And so my family was here. If I would have been in Pocahontas, I was 2.5 hours from Little Rock. Wow. And I would not have made it because I would have just thought I had the flu because I had septic shock and it presents as the flu.
Interesting. And okay, you have to tell us this full story because I've heard this story, but I know a lot of listeners have not heard the story. And only share as much as you want to, but I know
I'll tell a very condensed version.
It also, if I recall, has to do with kind of your getting into Stitch People.
How I got into Stitch People.
Yeah.
So I moved back to Topeka in November of 19, and in May 2nd of 19, I thought I had the flu. I'd been tested for COVID, but I woke up and I was delirious. I don't really have many memories of that day.
That's not a good sign.
No, not a good sign. Not at all. Unbeknownst to me, my kidneys had been shut down, or my kidneys and my liver were shut down for at least 24 hours. Whoa. And my mom had come over because we were treating it like the flu. She made me get in the car. And like I said, my dad had cancer. And so I was like, I don't need to get in the car. I don't want to give you the flu because it'll get to him. Right. And I don't want him to get sick. And she said, get in the car. And so she had to help me down. Felt like my bones were melting. That's the only thing I don't remember the pain, but I remember I felt like my bones were melting. Whatever that feels like.
Yeah. Isn't that funny how when we get sometimes certain feelings or certain physical feelings, but even like emotions, it's hard to verbalize. Like I just relate, not that I've ever had that specific one of like my bones are melting, but I know exactly what you mean. Where you're like, there is no other description than like it's like it there's crawling in my skin, or you know what I mean? Like you can't even. There's no words to describe the sensations. That's so frustrating.
I know it was bizarre. Yeah, and actually, I have a Marco Polo video that I had made early that morning to my two best friends. Like 3 days before, I'd gone over and hung out with my two best friends. I didn't feel good. My body had been hurting for about a week. But yeah, and so my two best friends had this video of us, or we knew that we had been talking. Yeah. And then there was this video that I had made, and I was like, you guys, something's wrong. I was gray. Something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I was telling them what was happening growing up, blah, 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 blah. And, but yeah, when my sister texted him later on, all they could do was just sit there like, wait, she was just talking. Anyway,
so shocking.
It was. Anyway, so my mom had to help me in the car. I used my last bit of energy to walk down 4 stairs to get to the car. She helped me in. I don't remember the 15-minute drive downtown to the hospital. I remember I had called the hospital. I didn't want to call 911 to ask if it was even worth me going in. And the lady said, well, if you don't feel good, honey, come on in. So we did. I guess on the way, I asked my mom if I was dying, because I was dying. I was. It's odd that I don't remember that, but it's odd that you just know.
Yeah. You're like, you had that instinct that your body was shutting down or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And my mom.
So sobering.
It is. The crazy thing is that I'm in this club that I never wanted to be a part of. I never thought I'd be a part of. I never even thought of before, which is I literally almost died. I mean, I actually almost died. You know how you get in the car accident, or you're driving down the road and somebody stupid, comes in and cuts you off, or, a teenager and all their friends are in the car and you get close to the line and, oh my gosh, you almost hit me. I almost died.
Right.
I don't say that anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's just so flippant to me now. When I got in the hospital, my mom, when we got there, my mom got out of the car. And by the time she got from her door to the front of the car, I remember all of a sudden my door opened. People put me in a wheelchair and they rushed me in the hospital. By the time my mom got from the door to the front of the car, I was already gone.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Go team, go. That just gave me shivers. They were ready for you.
Yeah. If just everybody know, if you feel like you have the symptoms of sepsis or septic shock, which is I had septic shock, do go to a trauma hospital. Don't fiddle around with going to urgent care. Don't go to your doctor's office and try to be seen. Go immediately to a trauma center. If you don't have one in your area, go to the ER. Tell them you think it's sepsis.
What are the? I mean, you said it kind of feels like the flu.
It presents as the flu. Yeah. There's
but it
all
sounds
kinds
sort of
things.
like a mega flu.
It is. It's a mega flu.
Like whoa, like what you're describing is like gray and it's like exhausted and
things that you want to look for. Also, kidney stuff. If you haven't used the restroom, if you're not drinking, I wasn't drinking, and I noticed that I wasn't drinking.
And was it like you weren't even thirsty? You had no desire, like it was you didn't want to.
No, and I was like, I'm too busy. Well, I'm not going to worry about it.
Sure.
And when your kidneys don't work, you retain fluid. Because there's no way for your body to filter out that.
Right.
So I had noticed the last day that I felt like, I was like, I mean, I know I'm chubby, but I noticed that I'm like, man,
will you feel like swollen?
I'm swollen.
Yeah.
And, but then that night, the night before I went to the hospital, I was asleep and my mattress, like I woke myself up shivering. My bed was shaking.
Oh,
that's how bad I had chills. Yeah. Like it
breaks my heart.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole list of things. And, if you go to the World Sepsis Alliance, there's so much information about what to know. It's unbelievable. It's the #1 killer in the United States. If you are in the hospital and you die in the hospital, it's complications from sepsis.
Whoa. I don't know that I've ever heard that.
Christopher Reeves, he died from sepsis.
Interesting.
He had pressure sores. Pressure sores get really deep. I ended up having one because when I was in the ICU, well, hold on. I went in, I rapidly declined, all of them. Kidneys and liver were done. They started dialysis. I was on constant dialysis. My heart was failing. My lungs, everything. I was intubated. And it was it's a bizarre thing when, everything was just collapsing.
Yeah.
And
your mom couldn't come in because of COVID, right?
No, they wouldn't let her in at all.
Yeah, right. Okay. Oh,
no.
so you were all alone?
Mm-hmm. I was all alone. I was in the ICU but they had one person in there with me the entire time. No one left.
Oh.
I actually had 3 different groups of doctors run tests, run all kinds of things.
Oh my gosh.
They never found out how I got sepsis.
So to this day, like you don't even know where it came from, why it happened?
No.
What? Mm-hmm. That blows my mind.
Yeah. And
in 2021,
mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
They never found out where I got it. They don't know how I got it. I mean, I had, I'll tell that in a second. So,
Lots of details.
So Sunday, 24 hours after I went into the ER, the doctor called my mom and said, "We're going to break COVID. We think it's time for you to come see Emily."
Oh no.
And my mom said, "Okay, we'll be there in 10 minutes. Yeah. We'll speed." And he said, "No, just you." My family couldn't come in, just my mom.
Oh my gosh.
And so, which is what a lot of people are going through with COVID.
Right. They have they've a designated person or something.
Right. And some people weren't even, and at that time, people weren't even allowed to go in.
Right. Kansas, I remember my friend gave birth during that time. It was, her baby was born in April, I think. And there was a very, very real possibility that like her husband would not be able to be in the room with her. As it was, she wasn't allowed to have her doula in there with her. Like she had a whole birth plan. She was going to have the, all the stuff. And she had her doula on FaceTime, and I think they did let her husband in, thankfully, but she was freaking out there for a second that she would have to deliver a baby by herself, you know? And I mean, and that's a happy reason to be in the hospital. Scary, but happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people like you and your family have had to deal with so much worse. That's so intense.
It was a really hard time. And my mom, we talk about it because I have to.
Oh yeah, it's a lot to process.
Yeah. And there have been so many times that we all had to process, and everybody processes things differently. And I have to talk things through. Yeah.
I'm the same.
It's like, I got to puke this up. Sorry, everybody. Mm-hmm. I've gotten better. But my mom said that when she went in, my dad and my sister were sitting outside the hospital just in case.
Yeah.
The doctor said yes. But she got in there. I think she doesn't remember how long she was there. She wasn't there too long. She saw me. She said what she said. My family.
And do you have any memory of any of this?
No, I was in a coma.
Right. Oh my gosh.
I was in a coma. And, they didn't tell me. They haven't told me. I think they thanked me. I'm not sure. I know my sister did.
What a gift. That's so lovely. So how long had you been in the hospital up to this point?
24 hours.
Oh my gosh.
24 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And then she called my boyfriend at the time, and he was different. He started hollering and telling me to live. Don't give up. Telling me to live. Yeah. And my sister has said, I wish I would have been more like him. I wish I would have been more like Jeff. I wish I would have gotten upset and said, no, don't give up. Hold on. But don't give up. Don't quit.
What an interesting hindsight to consider.
Yeah. And he was sobbing and all this. You can't quit on me and all this, it's just, but my mom thinks she was there maybe 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And she took a picture of me. Well, she left, and then she's like, I feel like I need to take a picture so that way they can see her. And when I heard that, I was excited. So she took a picture, and then she left, and then she went outside. And she said, I've got a picture of Emily. Do you guys want to see? And they both said no. So she deleted it.
Interesting.
She deleted it. And then that day, it was a Sunday, and I had people really from all over the world. It was Sunday morning. It was like 11 o'clock. And when my mom went in, and people from all over the world, and I've had people from different times, different that don't know each other. They told me that they prayed for, like, their church stopped. Oh. Individuals that don't go to church together told me that they had stopped, and their church said, we need to pray right now. Somebody needs healing, or Emily Miller needs we need to pray for Emily right now, or people on their own saying that. It was, like,
I love that.
And then my family went home and they just waited. And then 4 o'clock or 4 or 5 o'clock, my mom gets a call from the doctor or from the nurse just for a checkup. Mm-hmm. And nurse looks at my chart and goes, well, hey, turns out my numbers stopped tanking and I wasn't going bad. The numbers weren't bad. They were just neutral, right. Or some got a little better, and I was not out of the woods at all. I was still less than 10%.
Right, but at least you weren't on the decline.
Right.
Yeah, that's something.
7 days later, or 6 days later, they intubated me, or they extubated me. And on the 8th, or on, that was 8th, something like that. I woke up. It was, I remember, they asked me what day it was, or they asked me what month it was. I said, or what year. I said 2020. They said, what day is it? And I said February. And and then they asked me the president, and I said Trump, and then they said, other things, and they asked me what I wanted to watch on TV, and I looked at the clock, and it was 8:30, and I thought it was 8:30 at night, and I said, what day is it? And they said Friday, and I said Live PD. I love Live PD.
I love it. Priorities.
I love Live PD. But it was 8:30 in the morning. Right. And so they said, who do you want to call? And I said, my mom.
Oh.
And so my mom didn't know that I was calling. They didn't know. And so the phone rang, and
she just saw, the hospital calling again.
Yeah, because she said the nurses always called between 8 and 9 to get a checkup. And the nurse said, somebody's here to talk. Somebody wants to talk to you. And then my mom yelled at my dad, get on the phone.
Oh, I'm going to cry.
Come in. I know. And they sat around the kitchen table. They sat at the kitchen table. And I didn't talk long. I think it was something like, hi, Mom. Yeah, and my mom was crying, and I'm gonna be okay. Yeah. I know I'm gonna be okay. I'm getting better. And
so it was cool. And then a very good day for everybody.
Yeah. And I really think it was maybe like 2 minutes, maybe. Sure. And then I called my sister, and my sister was teaching at a homeschool co-op.
Okay.
Those homeschool co-op.
Right. Yeah.
And she taught music. She has some really cool music things that she teaches and for kids. And I didn't know that. I just woke up. Right. I didn't know it was homeschool co-op day. And so nobody told her. They just, I remembered her number. I mean, who remembers phone numbers these days? But I didn't have my cell phone. It was just off of memory.
Wow. Good for you.
I know. That was with brain damage too. I didn't know I had brain damage at the time, but we called her, and Katie answered the phone, and I was like, Katie, because my voice was just torn up.
Well, when you have all those tubes in there too, and
I mean,
it's horrible.
I didn't know, and I've done a little bit of research. But those tubes are big, and I didn't realize that the inside of my mouth was just shredded.
So could she hear that it was you on the phone?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I said, Katie, hi. And she goes, hold on. And she put on some video for the kids, and she goes, oh my gosh, Emily. Oh. And she starts crying. I'm like, I don't even remember what I said. So
right.
I don't remember what I said. Yeah. And and it was just very brief. And I was so exhausted.
Yeah.
I was had a little scare. I found out 3 months later when I was about to go in for back surgery. I found out that I'd had a cardiac ablation.
Whoa.
And I said, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, excuse me?
Yeah, well, the anesthesiologist, said, tell me, like, I'm minutes from going into this back surgery, which it's a neurosurgeon.
Yeah, that's
a little nervous.
That's a big one.
Yeah, I'd never had. This is the first time, by the way, I'd ever been in the hospital, ever.
Was the sepsis thing?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'd never had stitches.
My gosh.
I broke 2 toes.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, and then that leads me to, so I've never really, I've had pneumonia about 10 times, But other than that,
but nothing like
scar tissue in my
ER,
lungs,
hospital, surgery, nothing like that. Wow. What an introduction.
I know. So anyway,
but also it's like both, like you said, if you were at a significant hospital with a trauma center, so like, hey, what an introduction. Just people doing what they do best and just saving your life. Like that's what it's there for.
Yeah. So I had the cardiac thing. I had an ablation because when they took me off the heart machine, my heart wasn't beating correctly.
Whoa.
Which means I'll have to have another one, at least one, maybe two more times in my life.
Oh my gosh.
When I got out of those 3 fuzzy days out of amnesia, which were terrifying. At first I thought they weren't a big deal. And I've since realized, no, they were terrifying because I was by myself.
Right.
I was terrified.
And you had, if there was amnesia and memory loss, you don't have anyone who knows what you've been up to and can help you and can, feed you those memories and kind of fill in the blanks.
And reassure me I was terrified that the speech therapist wasn't going to be able to come in and evaluate me to drink.
Oh.
And I was so thirsty. And I would beg the nurse to come in and do the stupid sponges that taste like black licorice. I was so terrified they were going to forget about me.
Oh.
And, just things like that.
Yeah.
And they didn't. I was able to drink.
Right. Well, and often when you have any kind of medicine in your system, some of those side effects can be that like paranoia or that panicky or just kind of being, especially coming out of a coma, I'm sure, but anesthesia of any kind, you're just so disoriented that it's hard to, I think that's totally normal, but doesn't make it any less scary. No,
I thought I was in a craft room.
Oh, interesting.
I thought there was like crafts, and then I kept telling the nurse, and my problems were mostly at night. I think I have my nights and days mixed, which is, I've found out another side of sepsis. And that's part of the post-sepsis.
Interesting.
Which if there's anything good out of COVID, which I'm always like, I can't dwell on negative things.
Same. I'm a silver linings person.
Positives, absolutely.
There's always a silver lining. There
has to be. Yep. There has to be good that comes out of bad situations.
If nothing else, like one of my favorite anecdotes, I read this in, I can't remember. I've been reading a bunch of things like the Tao Te Ching and like just a bunch of Eastern philosophy. And there's this story about a man and his horse runs away and everybody goes, oh, that's terrible. And he goes, maybe. Well, then the horse comes back and it brings back with it like a bunch of wild horses. And everybody goes, hey, that's great. And he just goes, oh, maybe. And one of the wild horses they're able to capture and, hey, that's great. Oh, we'll see. And he they're able to like train the horse or tame it or whatever. Hey, that's great. And he goes, well, we'll see. Well, then that horse tramples his son in a fit and the son breaks his foot or his leg. They go, oh, that's terrible. And he goes, well, we'll see. And then a war starts, but the son can't get drafted because of his broken foot, because of the horse. And they go, oh, that's great. And he goes, oh, we'll see. And the story just goes on and on and on where, oftentimes our snap judgments about things being good or bad or positive or negative or really, really great or really, really terrible. Like it's always a lot more nuanced than that, right? Like there's always a gray area where a seemingly terrible bad situation can maybe have a positive that either you have to dig for in the moment or you just don't know yet or can't see yet. And vice versa. Sometimes things that seem really great, you never know. So Spencer and I have kind of adopted that. And I feel the same way about COVID where, it has sure been terrible for a lot of people and in a lot of ways and for a lot of reasons, but it also, there are silver linings, and I don't think that's bad or ignorant to consider.
Right. And, I have friends who have lost parents who've lost loved ones. And and it's not diminishing, diminishing that at all. And I grieve with them too. Of course.
Certainly. Yes.
But, if COVID has brought attention to anything, it's brought attention to sepsis because, like I said, sepsis is the number one killer when if you die from hospital, or if you die in the hospital, it's the number one killer. Like I said, Christopher Reeves had pressure sores.
Mm-hmm.
I had a level 3 pressure sore, which is not fun. I actually didn't have any, it didn't hurt unless you touched it, like in it. But I didn't even feel it. And the nurses didn't even notice it until my second to last day or my last day in the hospital. When I was at the hospital, nurses were coming in, and for some reason I went back in my southernness, and I heard my Arkansas voice come back, and I just decided to call everybody, say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, all that kind of thing, which is not really what we do up here, North Mason-Dixon, but whatever. It made, for whatever reason I did. And every single person.
They all probably loved polite, lovely Emily.
Oh, yes, they did. And I would have just even the ladies that came in to take out the trash at 5 a.m. I would just talk to them because I was so desperate for companionship.
Right.
And And I will say I had a couple of I had this nurse, Tanisha. She was a night nurse. And when you're physically touched by doctors who are just doing their job, that's one thing. But when you're not physically touched, people when they're older, they go in nursing homes, and we visited my grandma. My mom did most of the time. My mom saw my grandma every day when she was in the nursing home for, 6 years, I think.
Oh, wow.
But you'd see all these other families who wouldn't go see their loved ones for whatever reason in the nursing home. They're not getting touch. They're not getting that physical touch.
Right.
Which
Human
is
connection.
So important. Yeah.
Right.
But I go in the hospital and I don't get that physical touch. And at the time my hair was long, and listen, I'm a hairstylist as well.
Oh, wow. I don't know that I knew that about you.
Yes, I am.
That's very cool.
I was going to do them yesterday, but didn't get there that far. Yes. But she did the sweetest thing. She's like, do you want me to braid your hair?
Oh.
And I said, yeah, that'd be great. And I said, be careful. This white girl's head is tender right here. So don't be
yank it.
Of my hair.
Yeah.
And she was so sweet. And she just braided my hair.
No.
And I was
that
like,
must have been like luxury.
It was like, I go, Tanisha, I forgot what it feels like to have someone touch me when they're not jamming needles in me or, hooking me up to things. And she's like, I get that a lot. I do that a lot for patients. And I was like, I really appreciated it. And I got a little teary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, that was
and
was
I don't blame them. I know a lot of hospital staff, and my mother-in-law was a nurse for 35 years. It's not, I know that some people have terrible bedside manner, and that just is what it is. But for the most part, it's just that there are so many patients. There's so much to do. The priority is saving your life. And so they come in, they do what they have to do to fix your levels, get your fluids, do these life-saving measures. And then they have to go do it for the next person. And it's not a matter of being cold or ignoring you or not giving people the time they need, but it's just that this is what they do all day, every day. This is their job. And it's hard to sometimes, it's hard to remember that, like, you see the treadmill of patients all day, every day, but the patients that are in there for the first time, they don't know. Anyway, it's kind of an unfortunate cycle a little bit, but it's often not as malicious as sometimes people think, like, these people don't care. And it's like, no, it's not always like that. It's just they just have jobs to do,
Exactly. And you're not another number. They're genuinely caring for you.
Absolutely.
It's just they're swamped. And my hospital that I was in, I was lucky. I think the nurses there, I think they had like 5 patients.
Yeah.
And so, they weren't 4 or 5 patients. I think they weren't, they're in little pods.
Sure.
But they had a difficult patient. And so I was like, it's okay. I'm fine. I'm pretty easy. Just, I'm good.
Right.
But yeah, I was released, and then I went across the street to rehab hospital.
Okay.
And I spent and that's where,
and that's a full-time hospital too, where you were staying there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I stayed there for 2.5 weeks.
Whoa.
I, uh, that was when the post-sepsis syndrome really, started to show up. At the time I was diagnosed with renal encephalopathy, I think. I don't know what it's called. Pretty much, it's a generic term for brain damage because my kidneys were
Yeah. Okay.
damaged. Because I have no short-term memory as well.
Oh,
Um,
that's so
I
frustrating.
have brain fissures and all this fun stuff because when oxygen leaves your brain and all your
Right.
appendages goes to your organs to save them,
and things start
you can
to
get
shut
lesions.
down.
Yeah, that's why people with sepsis lose fingers, hands, arms.
Ugh.
I was actually close to losing at least my toes, if not my feet.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's also, I lost my hair. Remember? Because when you saw me last in May, it was really short.
Yeah. It was cute.
Thank you.
You had
and it was curly.
Really cute. Yeah.
It was curly. And now, I mean, I've had haircuts and it's longer. Yeah. But it was horribly depressing.
Oh, I'm sure. Especially, I didn't realize you were a cosmetologist. So it's like, oh, great. So this joy of my life.
I know. Well, and we all have things that we feel really confident about ourselves. And I had great hair. I mean, I had great hair. And it's coming, actually, I think I'm going to have, like, my hair is going to be even better.
Hey.
I know, because it's like 2 times as thick as it was. And, but
it just had to start from scratch.
Cute. I had great hair. And then I was super confident. And then to lose it all. Oh. So if you think about the thing that you feel most, and it can, and who goes around saying, "Hey, Brittany, my hair's so great. Look at me, I have great hair." You don't, right?
I don't. I have kind of thin, uninteresting hair.
Right. But if everybody thinks about what you're most confident about yourself, that you don't really tell anybody, but that's the thing that makes me look in the mirror and go,
"Yeah, you're like, I got it
today about X."
Right.
And then think about losing and think about choosing to give that up.
Yeah.
Choosing to sacrifice that for your own sanity.
Oh, of course. Better to buzz it than to have it be patchy and depressing, right? Like, at least that exerts ownership, some control over the situation.
Oh, I had lost complete control. When I got home from the hospital, I went in on the 2nd. I got home on like the 29th, 29th, 30th, something like that. I had lost everything. I could not work. I was just starting to walk. I had to use a walker. I got my walker with the tennis balls in there. I think my mom's got the 4-wheeler walker, the ones with the brakes, she's got that at her house. I have a cane in there. I had one of those shower seats.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I had an oxygen machine. I had all this stuff. I was actually thrown into type 1 diabetes.
Whoa.
I was not pre-diabetic. I wasn't anything, but I was sepsis threw me into type 1. Your body's
just like going haywire.
I aged internally 20 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, it because, and the reason why is because I had never been really sick before.
Yeah.
And because I'd never really been sick, I'd never been in the hospital, never anything.
Right. It just was like ultimate stress with no little stressors along the way to prepare you for how to handle it.
And that's why I had really bad post-sepsis. I have really bad post-sepsis syndrome, and which mirrors long COVID. To bring it back to COVID. So if you hear about long COVID, people with brain fog, if you hear about respiratory issues,
all the residual.
What was it? Yeah, they're saying that long COVID, or even COVID, is not even doesn't affect your respiratory as much as it does your heart. Mm-hmm. They're saying that shift.
Interesting.
That, and I mean, I have heart issues now. Like I have a whole laundry list of specialists that I see. But when I came home, and this will get to where we're at. When I came home, I had health insurance. Thank goodness. But I applied for medical unemployment because I can't go back to work because I can't multitask. Right. I the mental issues. I have PTSD, serious PTSD. It's also called PIC syndrome for being in the ICU. And I remember when I first was after all the stuff from being all the anesthesia stuff wore off, I remember thinking, I know things happen in my body. My brain knows things happen in my body. My body remembers.
Mm-hmm.
I have no conscious memory of what happened, but my brain and my body know.
Yeah.
9 months after I left the hospital, in February 13th, my dad had not been feeling good. And he went into the hospital, looked very similar to what I had.
Yikes.
And on the 15th, we knew, or my mom called and said, you need to come. He's not going to make it. It was like a perfect storm between his blood cancer. They thought he had one of these two, but he actually had both.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, when he, on the 15th, we knew he wasn't going to make it. And so I go in. Oh, thank you. But we go in and I knew that it was going to be hard.
Yeah.
But because my mom had told me she had that picture, you know, so I'd search for that picture and I can't find it. So I have no pictures of me in the hospital. I have no pictures. I don't know what I look like in the ICU. I don't know what the machines look like over in the UK.
Zero context.
Right. Yeah, I have no idea. In the UK, you can actually go in to ICU room. You can go in, you can talk to the doctors, to like your ER doctors. You can see where your actual room was. But what I love about that the concept about their sepsis awareness, 70% of the people over in the UK know about sepsis. They have advertisements everywhere about sepsis. They have the acronym. Because there's a whole acronym about it, kind of like if you have a stroke.
Right.
FACE, I think.
Yeah.
They have all this information. Everybody knows about it. And there's all kinds of stuff. But they don't have it here. And nobody knows about it. And so I was talking about, I lost my train of thought.
You were saying going back in the hospital to see your dad.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So my mom and my sister and I go in and I was split. And I knew that I had PTSD. I also knew I put PSS, but my doctor didn't know about it. So he said definitely PTSD.
Sure.
But I'd never known anybody who'd actually seen or experienced or relived actual effects of it. Well, let me say, I walked in and I was split in two.
Oh.
Because I was grieving my dad.
For sure.
Like I looked at the thing, I saw his body temperature. I don't even think it was even in the 90s. And I think it was in the 80s, like 84, I think. And I saw other things and I knew that he wasn't there, that he was just on the machines. But then over here, I saw all these tubes and I saw myself.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was hooked up to a lot more things. And because my mom had explained the room, and my room looked totally different than this one. And I knew that there was more involved. And then in comes the respiratory therapist. And she was amazing. She goes up to him, and I was standing. She goes up to him and she just goes right up to his head. And she says, "Hi, Ken, my name is so-and-so, and I'm going to be cleaning your tube." And she starts talking to him about all the things she's going to do and all the sounds he's going to hear, and not to be scared. It's okay.
Yeah.
She's just cleaning.
Right.
And I'm standing there. And now it's also, that was in February, and we were in the middle. I don't know if you remember. Did you guys have the big Arctic chill in February of last year? Do you remember?
That rings a bell.
It was like -20, -30. And here it is in Kansas.
We did not get it like that.
Yeah. It was like, we don't have trees, so we have wind.
Yeah.
And I think that was the wind chill. It was like -30
Ugh,
wind
that's
chill. I mean,
right?
it was like, and every single joint in my body hurts constantly. But in the winter, it's even worse. I'm like at a constant 6.5, 7 on the pain scale. And there's no reason. And I can't take anything because of my kidneys. So anyway, so I'm in the room and I don't move fast. And all of a sudden, she turns on the suction.
Oh.
Next thing I know, literally, I have no memory of being in the hallway. I'm in the hallway and I'm sobbing.
Oh.
And it's like, and I had a nurse come up to me and she's like, you need to calm down. Let's breathe. You're going to hyperventilate. Let's breathe. And I was like, I can't listen to that. I can't listen to that. And she's like, just breathe. It's okay. Just breathe. It's okay. I was almost to the point where I was hyperventilating.
Oh my goodness.
Because like my body and my brain knew that sound from when I had my own respiratory thing change.
Oh my gosh.
It was the craziest thing. And, I mean, but I wanted to be in there, but I don't remember running out.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And it was so hard. And then, she came back because, you know, when it was time to have him pass away, she came back and, I had to stay. I couldn't leave because it wasn't about me. I had to be there for him.
Right.
And
your family and your mom.
And my family and my mom. Yeah. And, the hospital I went to is Stormont Vale Regional Medical Center. If anybody in the area is around or anything, it's just a phenomenal hospital.
Oh, good.
And they called the palliative care in, and you know, we had talked, and I had let them know, because how do you react? You don't know how you react when you're going to grieve.
Right.
And my mom and my sister are amazing, and they completely understand that my brain is blah.
Yeah.
So, and they knew that I was just don't know how to handle. And I was not intentionally making all this about me, but how do you handle something when it was literally 9 months ago?
Right. Especially when you don't have any control over that reaction and that response in that, triggery kind of a way. Yeah.
And so, the palliative, I was like, I just went through this. I don't know what to do. And I want to be there, but I don't know what I'm going to do. And anyway, so my sister was on the other side of my mom. She was in between us, and we're holding hands, and it was time. And the palliative doctor was right there beside me. And, I was clutching my mom's hand.
Yeah.
And I knew that it was almost time. And here came the respiratory therapist, and that palliative care doctor just sat there next to me, and she saw the struggle, and she just held my hand, and she said, you can squeeze it as hard as you need to. And so, of course, I was getting my strength back, but I wasn't that yet. And I squeezed it, and and then he was gone. And we ended up having his memorial service a few months later, and it was beautiful. And there was laughter, and there was flowers.
That's the way it should be.
Good memories of him. But when I came home, I had lost my insurance a few months later. I didn't have insurance. I couldn't go to therapy. I knew I needed to do something for myself. I couldn't go to physical therapy, occupational, any of that. And I knew I had to keep my brain busy, and I had to keep my hands busy.
Right.
So I tried punch needlecraft because I didn't think I could handle cross stitch.
Sure.
I couldn't.
And now, had you cross stitched before all this?
Yes, my grandma taught me when I was 8.
Love it.
And
so it's just those fine motor movements were maybe a little bit in question.
But I knew I could do it. I wanted to do it, and so I knew I couldn't. But I was like, I don't want to cross stitch.
Yeah,
it's too much for me.
Right.
It's too fine. It's too minute.
Very patient, very detailed.
Right. I can't do that.
It's a lot. Even when you're feeling healthy, it can be a lot.
Right. So I had this quilt that I had bought 5 years before, and I had made up the pattern. And
you made your own pattern. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. I made the pattern, and if you're going to do it, why not go big or go home? Right.
Right.
And then why not even just make it harder for yourself? That's what I like to do.
Yeah, there you go.
Try not to go easy and work into things and then end up doing something complicated. Why not just
that seems to always happen to me too.
Right. Why not teach yourself how to quilt and then do the most complicated thing you could probably think of?
Why not? Yeah, sure. Just go, why not?
Sure. So I had done that and then I got distracted, like most people with ADHD do. And then I quit for about 5 years. And so I'm sitting in my chair. And I was like, when I couldn't get the punch needle thing to work, which have you ever tried that punch needle?
I haven't. I don't know anything about it.
It's just like you're punching. That's it.
Yeah.
How is this fun? I don't get that. So I went back and I remember my quilt.
Yeah.
And so I started.
See, those projects that sit around for a while, they're good for something.
Yeah. Here's my beautiful quilt. I hand stitched it because I couldn't use my sewing machine because it was too loud.
Right.
It was way too loud.
I love it. So for listeners, we've got a gorgeous, I'm seeing like kind of blue and coral and gray tones. Is that right?
Yes.
And then we've got, it's like bright, it's a square pattern, but like kind of in like stripes of squares, like diagonal. Yes. And it's vibrant. Yes.
There's, I don't know how many different colors or different materials there are, but my favorite, there's one pattern that has these peacocks.
I love that.
That's my favorite. It's like a peacock.
So
it's like
fun.
A watercolor peacock. And
it's gorgeous. It's huge too.
Yeah, it's going to be a king size.
Oh, wow.
And I made it where the squares rotate. So it's like at a diagonal.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's in a diagonal. But I was devastated and I felt like a failure because one of my rows that I had sewn before, 5 years before, I had gotten off on one. No. I had mixed up. Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't get off on it. I had flipped one of my squares around.
Oh.
And so it was sideways.
Darn.
And I sewed it together and then I saw it and I was devastated.
Oh, it's the worst feeling.
I'm such a failure. And I called my mom and she's like, why are you beating yourself up? So what? Who cares? It's your quilt. It's your quilt.
Easy for you to say, Mom.
I know. She's like, exactly what I said. And she's like, Emily, it's your quilt.
Yeah.
So what is part of it? It's going to be passed down. And it just adds something.
Just the wonky square.
So actually, I started calling them little Easter eggs, of course. And so I actually have Easter eggs and I'm all over the place now.
I love that. You embraced it. Talk about silver linings. I think that's the theme of our conversation.
Yes.
Making lemonade out of lemons.
Yes. And I put them all over. And so then, I can't even find them now. Oh, but then, okay, so I've got these diagonal, they're columns, but then each one's kind of shifted to their diagonals.
Right.
And then I was like, well, that's kind of boring just to have squares. So why not add more? So then I have this white bang or whatever that is. Like, what's this? What would you call this? It's like a white edge. Maybe?
Oh yeah. Like an edge, a border or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And then I took the scraps and my mom called these soldiers.
I love them. They look almost like little dominoes all lined up.
Yeah. Yeah. Like little dominoes. And that's the side of the quilt.
It's so cool. Little stripy border.
And then some of the material is really plain. It's like this light aqua green, I don't know, just really light. Yeah. And it doesn't have much to it. So I thought, once I got all this all sewed together, I hand sewed it, which I'm going to have to go back and machine sew it.
Yeah.
Because,
Well, now if that's something that you can do a little easier, you've got a nice, at least it's held together already and you can just kind of reinforce.
I'm going to say maybe 7.
Yeah.
But I decided, I've got 4 openings on each corner for squares to go into.
Fun.
And I'm going to actually, the shirt that I wore to the hospital and what I wore out of the hospital is this coral color.
Oh, hey.
And so I'm going to put that in the four corners, just kind of tie it together.
Yeah.
And then I got to thinking, once I got it all sewed together, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can embroider on the squares. So I was like, I can embroider or I could cross stitch on those. Embroidering is so much faster because you don't have to be perfect. And it's like, wow.
A little less precise.
Yes. And I taught myself how to embroider a few years before. And so I just got on Pinterest and I was just looking at stuff and I was like, oh, those are so cute. What is that? Oh, those are so cute. Oh, what's this? Down the rabbit hole I fell, spiraling into Stitch People.
Hey!
And then the obsession became, and then the quilt became forgotten.
I love that.
It will come back. So yes, that in a very long way is how I found Stitch People. And, it actually helped open me up, helped bring me out of this, I don't want to say a shell. I had just kind of, I've always been the person that walks into the room. And I've been told this my whole life, and I don't really believe it, but this is what I've been told is the person that, when I come in the room. Yeah. I've had to laugh. I mean, I laugh.
You're a bright light.
I am. I like making people laugh, and I like people. And I was in a relationship that I was encouraged to not be that person because he didn't want the attention, and because he didn't, then I shouldn't. And then I just went into like a little shell. Yeah. And then being sick, I just sequestered myself in my house.
Right.
And for 9 years, I just was not myself. And then when I found Stitch People, it was fun. And then when I went to Spring Fling, which was right soon after I found Stitch People, that's when I got on Spring Fling. Yeah. And then I met my two best friends.
Just like 6 months ago.
I know. I met my two best friends, Brooke Suko, and your friend and my friend, Jen. I love her. We are these Circle sisters because we love the show The Circle on Netflix. Yes. We actually even had like a little group where we watched The Circle together.
Oh, how fun. Netflix. I love that.
Yes. And no, they're amazing. And actually I'm going to North Dakota in March because Brooke is she's going to be in some like a baby like craft thing. And so I was like, I'm going to go up and help you.
And see. Oh, how fun. I love that. Taking the online friendships offline. That's the way it should be.
I know. We like send each other. I send her like 50 Snapchats in a row. Like, I finally got through all of your Snapchats. Sorry, I have nothing else to do. But yeah, but making those friends and then, creating these things. And then I was always, in fifth grade, I was reading at like high school into college level, like comprehending, I was very reading, I got it. And then I decided that was something that I was working back because that's something that has affected me.
Sure.
Thinking, reading, comprehension, all that. I decided to go back to college this semester.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
Yeah,
congrats.
I wanted to start a sepsis program at the hospital that I work at. Yeah, because there is no sepsis program. And no.
Not easy, not as easy as it used to be.
No, what I'm reading is not what, an understanding is not at all what is written. And I have a personal wellness class, which is online gym. And those concepts I'm not understanding. And then geography concepts and like social justice and all this other stuff. I'm not understanding those concepts either. And I'm not doing well.
Oh, that must be so frustrating.
It is. And, and talking to my mom, I had a cousin who who had dyslexia, or well, it was diagnosed dyslexia, but it wasn't dyslexia.
Yeah.
That was in the 70s. But he didn't read well, but he was really good at woodworking and finishing. That was his thing, is finishing things. And he was amazing at it.
Real
And
hands-on.
Like hands-on stuff. And I got thinking, before I was so impatient, I couldn't do detailed things. And now when I cross stitch, I'm just so obsessed with the tiny minutia.
I love that.
I know. And like I did
because sometimes that's a lot of times the point where people give up, because they like to design it and they like to kind of do the big chunks. But then when it comes to all those finishing touches, it's like, and people get frustrated.
Yeah. And I mean, that's where I spend way too much time picking the specific colors, like blending the color in the hair, or I
say you can never spend too much time doing that, but go on.
I know. And we really need to talk about adding some new blondes to the blonde chart as a hairstylist.
Right. Cooler tones.
Yes.
That's what all the feedback I get is, we need cool blondes. Okay, sorry.
But anyway, I was just teasing you. I was on my best friend, she loves jewelry.
I love that.
Jewelry. And so I made one with her, and she had hoop earrings.
Yeah.
I spent so much time, even though she has long hair, I made her have like the 3D.
Oh, I love that.
And like the necklaces.
Good
and
for
then
you.
Like the layered. Yeah. I mean, and it wasn't even a second thought. I just did it. And, it was just, I wouldn't have done that before. And it just kind of came to me. I lost that ability. Now I can read books I've read before and I'm fine, but it's new information, new concepts. I can't. So
understand. It sounds like your strength has gotten kind of like you were talking about with the woodworker, just a little more tactile, a little more hands-on learning instead of, the visual, conceptual kind of.
Right. The concepts.
Yeah.
So school is not for me, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
And there's other ways that I could start it. Like I said, Topeka is a big, small town. And I actually got my primary care doctor because my mom and her friend taught with this woman whose husband is now the vice president of the hospital that I go to.
Wow.
And so,
like you said, small town.
I know, it's just like 160,000 people in this town. Yeah. And so her husband was the one. Yes. So her husband was the one that got me my doctor, who's phenomenal.
Well, there you go.
He's phenomenal. So yes. So it's,
what is that? Creativity loves constraints. So now you just got to find another pathway. It's like a little river or tributary, just like got to make your way back to the ocean somehow.
And Pocahontas, it's the river that is right there, that it goes through town, is the Black River. And the Black River feeds into the Mississippi. And it's just, there's and then all these little tiny, little tiny rivers and creeks and all this stuff feed into the Black River that feed into the Mississippi.
Exactly. There's no one way to get to where you got to go.
That's right. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
I love that.
So there's, so
you found your power again with crafting and with details and with hand making.
And it just trickles down.
It's amazing how, when it's a colloquialism for a reason that when one door closes, another one opens. You know what I mean? That's a thing for a reason. It's this universal thing people experience that when you do away with, one thing in your life that isn't serving you, or even if it was, it still allows something else to enter and take its place. And you never know what that can lead to or what that might do for you.
Yeah. So that's my very long story about septic shock. So
septic shock and stitch people.
Yes.
Hey, everybody's like we said there at the end, everybody's got their own kind of journey to the same thing.
Yes.
So I want to give us a quick minute. I'm just going to throw some rapid fire questions at you because I love it's a silly thing kids do, right? Like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? But it's such a basic way to relate to each other and to say, oh, we have this in common. I love it. So, okay, if you had to say, easy one to start with, what's your favorite color?
Blue.
Blue. Any particular shade or just any blues?
Ooh, I'm going to say like smoky blue,
Ooh.
like that kind of, like blue-gray
Like a
blue,
blue-gray. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have a favorite type of weather to enjoy?
Ooh, depends on the situation.
Okay. It's contextual.
I like, I think, when it's hot, I want it's snowing, I want to be in my house. And I want to be drinking cocoa. When it's cold, I want to be sitting on the beach.
So you've got like favorite things to do regardless of the weather. I love that.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite meal to cook? It doesn't necessarily have to be your favorite food, but your favorite meal to like prepare.
Ooh, that's a good question. I do like to cook. I used to like to cook more. Now I don't like to cook. I like to substitute pasta or substitute squash for pasta.
Oh,
like pasta out.
Spaghetti squash.
Spaghetti squash.
I love that.
Squash,
I do that too.
zucchini.
Love it. Okay. Last one. Do you have a favorite? Oh gosh, now I'm nervous about asking the best. Favorite? How about this? Favorite TV show?
Oh, girl. It's going to, like,
Pressure's
my current
on.
favorite television show now.
I'll take it.
It's going to be on Sunday.
What is
Yellowstone.
Oh, they used to film that in Utah. They moved it to Wyoming, but it was filmed in Utah. I've known a lot of people who were in the first seasons, like little side characters and stuff. How fun. Oh, I'm glad you like it.
Yes, because have you seen it yet?
I've seen a few select episodes, just like ones my friends have been in, but what I've seen, I've liked.
Yeah, you need to watch it because it's insane. And it starts on Sunday. It's 2 hours and it's going to be crazy.
Awesome. Well, Emily, thank you so much for sharing your story. It has been lovely to chat with you. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, but I like it. I love conversations like these.
I hope I didn't make too many people cry. No. It's actually been very positive and I wouldn't change a thing. I would do it again. I would have the doctors do exactly what they did every single step of the way.
It's a beautiful outlook.
Absolutely.
So much gratitude. I love that.
Yes, absolutely. And find out about, if you have questions, find me on Facebook, find me on Messenger. If you want information about sepsis, post-sepsis, anything like that, I will be more than happy to talk. Because it's so important. So I love talking to you. And by the way, Jen said we need to do this again so that way we can all get in on this and we can have fun and talk about fun stuff instead of sad stuff.
Oh, so fun. All right. Well, we will connect soon, I'm sure. And until then, ta-ta for now. Thanks, Emily.
Bye.
Wow, what a story. Didn't I tell you? It's kind of deep and intense, but boy, is there a lot to learn from that. First of all, taking charge of your own health and being aware of sepsis, which I didn't know was such a threat, but also to make choices and do things for yourself that empower you and help you find that control of your life that you need to feel and to express your creativity and to feel empowered again. It's so, so important. And I love how Emily has done that for herself and is really owning her story and what her life looks like going forward and how creativity is a part of that. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Stitch People podcast, and thanks for enjoying these conversations with Stitch people like you. I would so appreciate it if you could take a moment and subscribe to this podcast and leave us a rating and a review if you can. I know it'll take a little minute, but it really helps us with all the algorithms and being visible and all of that, blah, blah, blah. It will also help us shine more cross-stitchy sunshine into the world. You can check out everything that Stitch People has to offer by way of cross-stitch patterns and books and merch, and there is a lot that we offer. If you're looking for a pattern specifically, we probably have it. That'll be available at stitchpeople.com, and we'd love for you to connect with us on Instagram and Pinterest. We love to see your crafty works in progress of all sorts. So connect with us, tag us, let us see what you're up to so we can give you a little digital high five. Lastly, I want to thank all of you in the Stitch People community for your support of us and your positive and cooperative encouragement of one another. I'd also like to thank the incredible Stitch People team for making all the magic happen behind the scenes. Our fully licensed jazzy tunes were created by Jonathan Boyle, and our incredible master wizard sound designer, Sir Brandon Yost, is the one who makes us sound so very good. Thank you very much, sir. Have a wonderful day, my friends, and happy stitching to all of you. The Stitch People podcast is a production of Ptsd, LLC and Stitch People. Copyright 2022, all rights reserved.